Call to order. This is a board workshop of the Board of Managers of Marlin Independent School District being held February 1st, 2021. Beginning at 5 p.m. in the middle school library, 678 Success Drive. A recording of the meeting will be available for listening on the district website. The subject to be discussed or considered upon which any formal action may be taken or listed below. Items do not have to be taken in the same order as shown on this meeting notice. Unless removed from the consent agenda, items identified within the consent agenda will be acted on at one time. Roll call. Board Member Terry.
Present.
Board Member Vickers.
Here.
Board Member Johnson. All three board members are board managers are present. We do have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Any public comments? All right. We're going into closed session. The time is 5:01. According to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, deliberation of personal matters, including recommendation to hire head football coach, assistant athletic director. Close. We're back in open session at 5:57. Next on the agenda is superintendent report.
Board President Johnson, members of the board, will begin our report with Dr. Stacey Parker for middle of the year student data.
Good evening, Board President Johnson, members of the board. I want to present to you our middle of the year student data from our universal screener. So just a reminder that our universal screener that we use is an adaptive assessment. It's administered 3 times a year, once at the beginning of the year, once at the middle of the year, and then again, we'll administer it at the end of the year. This test is administered to students in grades kindergarten through 10th grade, and it's administered in reading, math, and science. We do use a grade level equivalent score. It's called the RIT, but it is aligned to students' grade levels to measure their performance among their peers. It is the middle of the year assessment, and we open that window January the 11th through January 25th of this year. And so based on our Lone Star governance goals, we're going to report out our math and reading scores for each level. So in taking a look at reading, we noticed that at the beginning of the year, we reported out our average RIT scores, which we noted at the time were considerably lower than the norms for grade level, up to 2 to 3 years behind grade level. So for kindergarten through 10th grade, I reflect the beginning of the year scores as it was average for our Marlin ISD students, the grade levels. I am now noting our middle of the year average score so that you can see a side by side of some growth that we have been gaining from our beginning of the year level. So from our beginning of the year to middle of the year growth, where you see plus signs show that we did have gains, which is indicative of some of the work and plans that we've been putting in place actually starting to work. We did have slight regression in a couple of areas by more than like less of a point, 1 to 2 points, which probably show just really stagnant, no growth. I did list for you our on grade level target for the middle of the year so that you can see that despite where we had some growth areas, we are still averaging half a year to 4 years behind in grade level. So while we're making some gains, we are not yet where we want to be. So we still have considerable gaps to close.
And it's one thing to mention to the community. Yes, we're celebrating that probably in a long time, we actually have stopped the bleeding. We're headed in the right direction with majority positive growth. However, whenever we look on that far right side, that's why we cannot clap for too long. This is reassuring and affirming that our intervention plans, our curriculum, our master schedule, that it is working. But when it comes to overall of where we should be, we're thinking about how do we begin to catch students up an entire year and a half. And that's the next piece that we're going to figure out. But the first part was, let's just show growth from August to December. We can't use COVID as an excuse because everyone has COVID, but we still have to make sure that we give our kids what we need. And so I want to thank publicly our teachers, our principals, our executive staff, for what y'all have done to show majority greens on an academic chart in Marlin ISD.
Absolutely. That is great. And so this was for reading and the same trend in mathematics. So we did see starting with our beginning of the year average scores to report our middle of the year average scores to see that we are making gains. And so these are grade level averages, which means that a whole individual students are growing and moving up to closing the gaps. I did want to share, however, that just like reading, we do have similar deficiencies still, where the most is our 8th graders are performing right now at a 5th grade level. So we still have up to 3 years of gaps across. And as it starts in kindergarten, they're starting out slightly behind. As you can see, each year the gap widens, which is why, again, reinforcing Dr. Henson's previous statements, our next focus will be on what will we do to close those gaps so that we don't continue to see a widespread the further they move along. And so next steps are takeoff to improvement. We have begun to streamline our scope and sequence documents so that we can bring back some of those concepts taught in the first semester and put it actually in our plans. So teachers are going to reteach and be intentional about going back and covering some of those topics that were taught. As we know, coming into reentry with COVID being at the forefront in August, some learning was also missed. So we're giving all of our teachers the opportunity to go back now that we've stabilized in school to reteach those items. We're going to revise our intervention schedule and focus to allow for targeted instructional focus based on those learning gaps. So now not only are we going to look at reteaching the current year items from the first semester, but we're also going to align standards in prior grade levels so that they know when I'm teaching this concept on grade level, I can actually go back 2 and 3 grade levels and touch on those items that we need to remedy. And so we're going to do remediation strategies to focus on primary reading and math skills for upper elementary and secondary students. We believe, as you saw, that the growth kept going from kinder up. It was showing a lack of basic phonics for reading and numeracy skills for math. So we're working on that. We're going to also implement weekly progress monitoring and data-driven team meetings. We have seen a direct correlation with constantly monitoring the data, giving our teachers the data, showing them how to pull the data in making changes in how they deliver instruction. We're going to continue with our Region 12 coaching at the primary and secondary levels to grow teacher capacity for quality first-time instruction. And then we currently have an application submitted to TEA to participate in their Texas Home Learning 3.0 program. And that's going to support us with additional curriculum resources and support from TEA staffing. Any questions? So next, I'm going to talk to you about some data that we have at the high school level for the Texas Success Initiative Assessment, or the TSIA data. So the Texas Success Initiative Assessment is administered to all juniors and select seniors. We administered this test the week of January 18th. The seniors that were selected to test were those that were close but did not quite meet the standard in the previous year, and those that are not currently enrolled in any college prep English or math class. The students are determined college and career ready by either completing the college prep courses or successfully passing this assessment. And so this year, the testing standards were changed, much like in a lot of our data pieces. And so along with the scoring criteria, they had an increase in test questions. They changed the score in prior years. The minimum score was a 351, but now it's a 950. 41 juniors were tested in both subjects, and then 6 seniors were tested in reading, and 9 seniors were tested in math this year. So currently, for the juniors, 5 students passed the reading out of the 41, and 5 students passed the math. It was not necessarily the same 5 students. So you just had 5 students that passed reading. So that was 12.2% that's passed, that were able to pass the TSIA, and the same percentage for students that passed math. And for our seniors, 1 student passed reading and no seniors passed the math. So right now, those that tested, 16.7% of those that took the reading assessment, that 1 passed, and then no students again passed math. However, we do still have a plan, and what we plan to do now is offer targeted TSI intervention sessions to thoroughly prepare our students to pass this assessment. We're also going to increase our student participation and enrollment in our college prep courses, and we also have a computer-based TSI practice program that we're utilizing now to help students access the materials that they will encounter on the test. And then we're going to have multiple opportunities to test. Our counselor did make a trip and take some of the students over to MCC to retest. So we're going to increase our efforts to get the students out to test, because there's not a limit. They can retest often. So we're going to make sure we prepare them, and then we give them other opportunities before the semester closes.
So there is a retest?
Yes, absolutely. This one is open, so they just go and sign up, and Ms. Driska, our counselor at the high school, makes arrangements with the AccuPlacer, come to administer the test, and they go out and they're able to take it. And they offer it repeatedly at the junior college as well, or they'll come out to us if we arrange it.
And is the TSIA required for graduation? Or does it just assess military Inquiry.
It's definitely required. It's required to be passed, required for college entry. So when they take the test, even if they're not successful in high school, it won't prevent them from getting a high school diploma. But when they go to enroll, they must take that's the test that determines their readiness for jumping straight into college level reading and mathematics courses.
So what we're doing in Marlin, either every senior will have to either pass the TSI or we automatically enroll them in college prep English or math, because we don't want for them to miss out.
I see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
For our board president and members of the board, I'm going to speak about our process for planning our school calendar for next year. I'm going to appoint a committee of teacher leaders who aspire to be administrators to begin to have them form groups to draft 3 draft calendars in which we'll see feedback from employees, parents, students in our community during the month of February and probably the beginning of March. Then during the regular March board meeting, I will present to you all the calendar that we decided to receive the best feedback from the community. So the input will be taken from all. I'm going to have 9 teacher leaders draft 3 calendars with the assistance of executive cabinet, and then we will vote. Are there any questions?
Where did tree come from?
So here's the story where it came from. Mr. Galloway and I were having a conversation, and we said, in order to be a great leader, all great leaders need a strong nickname, like Johnny Buck Rogers, but more importantly, Rocky Terry. And that was the example that we used. So I'm like, I didn't have a nickname. And Mr. Galloway said, how about Tree? And I said, you know what? We're just gonna try to just throw it in and see if it sticks. So no official TA documents yet. One day soon, we'll be known as Tree, the Superintendent Marlon Dias. And that concludes the superintendent's report. Rocky Terry.
And bless his heart, I just wanted to tell you one thing. You know, his mother never even gave him a chance to know that that wasn't his real name. And when Rocky got his social security number, it says Rocky. He still didn't even know that. Until he went into the army did he know that he had a real name.
We're going to stick one day.
Consent agenda. Consideration and possible approval of recommendation to hire head football coach as letter director. Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that on the consent agenda that I recommend that we hire Ruben Torres as the head football coach and assistant athletic director.
It's been motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, we're ready to vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passed 3-0. Coach Torres is our new head football coach and that assistant athletic director. Is there anything else? If not, we stand adjourned.